What's up, guys? My name is Marcus Huskins, and thank you for joining me. As always, if you're finding this content useful, please go ahead, do me a favor, and hit that subscribe button. So diving right in, we're working in Studio One 4 today, and I wanted to take a quick moment to talk about producing with the Chord Track, how we can use the Chord Track in our workflow, regardless of whether we're working with audio or MIDI. Okay, so I've got a little session set up over here. We'll go ahead and have a quick listen. Full disclosure, this was created using a Soundset MVP Dream, really cool sound set. And I just chose one of these arrangements over here. I'm using the second one in this folder. So I've dragged in a couple elements. Let's go ahead and have a quick listen. Okay, so let's say that we want to use this as the starting point to our production, but we want to add some other elements. So maybe I want to add my own bass sound, and maybe I want to add something basic like a piano. So let's talk about how we can use a chord track incorporated into our workflow. Now I know the chord track can be a little bit daunting. There's a lot going on with it, but let's just do something simple for the sake of this video and sake of demonstration. Okay, so first thing we need to do is I want to use the chord track technology to basically help me out, and let's go ahead, let's make our chord track visible so we can see over here we have a blank chord track. Let's go ahead, we can determine the actual chords. We have this strings audio event over here, and this has the chords in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, I'm going to head to audio, and I want to detect chords. Now it's gone ahead and it's done a chord detection. You can see it's visible in the bottom. We can double click, open up our music editor. If we want to double check these edits and make sure that they're good, something that I usually end up doing is just making sure that all the beginning sections over here are snapped to a quantized boundary, like a bar or a beat or something like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and pause this video for a quick moment. I'm just going to go through and make sure that everything is snapped on the bar as it should be. Okay, so I've gone ahead, I've double checked everything, and it looks good. And this is, you don't have to do this, but it's just something that I like to do to make sure that everything is on the proper boundary. So the next step is I'm just going to right click, head over to audio, and I'm going to extract to chord track. So now we have all these tracks over here. You can see my chord track is set to off. I'm going to go ahead, shift double click. We'll give this a nice bright color. Now, essentially, now I have the chords. I can either make audio or instrument tracks, MIDI, follow these. So let's go ahead now. Let's bring in some instruments. First thing I'm going to bring in will be, let's bring in a Pop Grand. So that's just a Presence XT instrument. And the next one I want to bring in is, I really like this preset, Sub-Level. Really cool preset that I became aware of through one of Catfire's videos. So I'm going to go ahead and use this preset. Now the next thing I want to do over here, let's just click one of these events. We'll click P to make sure our loop section is the right duration. And then let's double click and we'll create an instrument part for each one of these events. Okay, so now I'm going to double click here, and the beauty of the chord track is we can essentially just draw in one note, for example. We'll duplicate this, and then I'm just going to make a basic chord over here. Now I can take this and I can duplicate this out, the length or duration of my audio event. Now, technically speaking, I could even copy everything over here, and we could go to our bass part, and I could paste that so that's the exact same information. So let's close our editor. And now the next thing I want to do is I just want to set the appropriate follow mode. So we'll try different things, but to start off with, let's set the Pop Grand Piano to parallel, and let's set our bass track to bass. Now, one thing I'm going to do really quickly is let's just highlight these top notes over here. We'll go ahead and delete those so we're just left with the bottom root note. Okay, so I'm going to close my editor. And now we've made sure that we set these tracks appropriately. Now all we have to do is just activate our chord track. So that's a really good starting point for us to be able to start working. And the other thing that we can do here as well is I can try different modes for the piano. So this is currently set to parallel. Okay, so maybe I want to try narrow. Let's try that. That might work better. I like what it did there. And then of course, the minute I'm happy with this, we can go ahead and use some of our other functions like transform to audio track. And I could just go ahead and transform this into an audio track. We have the chord information embedded, but now I'm working with audio. And the same can be said for the bass as well. So if I was happy with this, I could transform this to audio. And then of course, at any given point in time, we could transform this back to an instrument track and we'd be good to go. We would just have to set our follow mode accordingly again. But that's an example of how you could go about using the chord track in your productions, working with audio loops, working with instrument tracks. Makes it really easy to kind of flesh out ideas or add overdubs or different parts to existing tracks. So anyways, that's all the time I have available for this video. Again, if you found this content useful, please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and please feel free to share your thoughts with me. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. So we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.